Hello, and welcome to a digital book talk from Massanutten Regional Library. Today's digital book talk is for our middle grade readers. And once again, I am focusing on books from the Virginia Reader's Choice List for the 2021-2022 school year. And these are actually the last 4 books from the middle school list. And then next month I'll do something different. But these are on that middle school list for this year. The Collector, Maybe He Just Likes You, Genesis Begins Again, and Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows. So let's start with The Collector. So The Collector, admittedly, is not a book I would have chosen for myself. I am not into scary things, horror stories, that sort of thing, and that's definitely where this falls. But there's always good points about expanding your reading repertoire and just challenging yourself to try different things. So this book, The Collector, written by K.R. Alexander, and as I said, it's on the Virginia Reader's Choice List for this school year, 21-22. When Josie's grandmother becomes ill, 6th grader Josie, along with her mother and her younger sister Anna, move from Chicago to a small town to live with their grandmother so that they can help take care of her. Josie is scared to start a new school, like anybody else would be, and she's feeling isolated without a TV, no internet, and no cell phone reception. Grandma Jeannie has 3 rules, 3 house rules. Windows must stay closed after dark. No dolls are allowed inside the house, and it is forbidden to visit the house in the woods where Beryl, the witch, lives. School and a growing friendship with classmate Vanessa bring some normalcy to Josie's new life, but when the 2 girls arrange to spend time together after school, Vanessa's house turns out to be the one that Josie's grandma has warned her about. The house that has appeared in Josie's nightmares. Will Josie escape, or will she end up like the hundreds of other doll children collected in the house? This book is full of suspense and eerie imagery, including possessed dolls, and definitely falls into the category of supernatural horror. So if that's your bag, if that's what you like, this book is for you. If you want to challenge yourself to try something different, also could be a book for you. If you're not into that realm, you may not want to read it after dark. So our second book, Maybe He Just Likes You, extremely different from The Collector. Okay, this book is written by Barbara D, and in this book we have Mila. She is a 7th grader, and she's coping with sexual harassment. Sexual harassment that's been organized and perpetrated by several boys in her class. The first time, the group of boys asked for hugs, and Mila felt uncomfortable about that. And then the request continued. They continued asking for hugs. There was unwanted touches, and it grows in its frequency. And Mila does not know where to turn for help. She's confused, she's frustrated, she's angry, and she is scared. Mila feels even worse because she cannot count on her usual circle of friends. One friend is weirdly envious of all the attention the boys are giving Mila, and another friend simply hates confrontation, and so she doesn't want to deal with it. And then there's Max. Max is busy with a new student named Jared, who happens to be his new crush. Max is also very disappointed in Mila because Mila won't take his advice, which is to report the harassment. Mila, meanwhile, her mom is divorced. She's just lost her job. And so Mila doesn't want to confide in her either because she's worried about adding to mom's stress levels. Whenever Mila does attempt to stick up for herself, she's silenced. She's silenced as people accuse her of overreacting. The harassment keeps happening, and despite her protests, on the bus, in the halls, even during band practice. The one time when Mila used to always be able to escape to her happy blue sky feeling place. It seems like these boys are everywhere. And then Mila starts to gain some confidence after she enrolls in a karate class. Her friends still don't understand why she's making such a big deal out of the boys' attention. But when Mila is finally pushed too far, she realizes that she can't battle this on her own. And she does find some help. She finds some help in some unexpected places. So it's heavy. It's heavy in its nature, sexual harassment, unwanted attention from other people, the lack of help coming from places where you thought you might be able to find it or hoped you would. So read it with that knowledge in mind. Read it knowing that if you've experienced these things, you're not alone, but that there are places to reach out for help. There are adults to reach out for help. And never be afraid to ask for that help from the people you need it from. In our third book, Genesis Begins Again by Alicia Williams, we have a 13-year-old girl named Genesis Anderson, and she comes home from middle school one day to find that her family's belongings are on the lawn. They have been evicted from their home yet again. Her dad is an alcoholic with a gambling problem, and he never pays the rent, but he promises that this next time will be different. They are going to rent a house in the mostly white suburbs. He promises that he will get a promotion at work so that they can afford this home. At school, Genesis makes friends for the first time and is mentored by Mrs. Hill, the choir teacher. But Genesis's father still drinks too much, and her parents' marriage is unraveling. Genesis tries to lighten her skin tone. She begs to be able to use relaxer in her hair, and she keeps a list of 96 things that she hates about herself. She believes that if she only looks more like her light-skinned mother and less like her dark-skinned father, that everything at home will begin to improve. That message is hammered home for her by her father's cruel comments and her grandmother's story of the brown paper bag test. Genesis escapes it all by singing. And she's inspired. She's inspired by greats like Billie Holiday and Etta James. And so when she has the opportunity to sing in the school talent show, Genesis must find the power in using her voice to speak her truth. This book has received many accolades, including being named a 2020 Newbery Honor Book, and of course is also on the Virginia Reader's Choice list for this school year. Our last book today is Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows. Now, this is the first in a trilogy, so it's the first out of 3 books, and it is written by author Ryan Calejo. Charlie Hernandez loves his abuela's stories, drawn from Latino and Hispanic folklore, in particular legends about supernatural creatures, some good, but many are evil. Charlie has always been proud of his Latin American heritage. He loves the culture, the art, and especially the myths. After the family home burns down, Charlie's parents go missing. And Charlie begins to experience freaky bodily manifestations, such as growing horns and sprouting feathers. He is suddenly swept up in a world where the mythical beings that he spent his entire life hearing about seem to be walking straight out of the pages of Hispanic folklore and into his life. And even stranger, they seem to know more about him than he knows about himself. He's not the chosen one, but the bad guys think he is. A map inside his mother's locket leads Charlie to a cemetery. And then, all of a sudden, all the Hispanic, both Latin American and Iberian myths, all of the myths that he learned from his abuela leave the world of legend and reveal themselves in Miami, Florida. And everyone, good and bad, seems to be after Charlie. This book has been described as the lightning thief meets the story thieves. It is inspired by Hispanic folklore and legends and myths from the Iberian Peninsula as well as from Central and South America. And many of those myths are elaborated on and described further in the glossary for those who are unfamiliar with mythology from that area. This is a perfect book for people who want to learn more about mythology and experience myths from other places besides the Greek and Roman ones that many of us learn about in school. So this is Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows. Thank you for joining me today for a digital book talk from Massanutten Regional Library. Today we have read or learned about The Collector, Maybe He Just Likes You, Genesis Begins Again, and Charlie Hernandez and the League of Shadows. I hope that whether you pick up one of these books or another book, that you come on in and pick up a great book to read today. Happy reading.